Okay, so let's start at factoring the greatest common factor. Let's have, for example, letter A, 2x plus 10. Now, 2x plus 10 are both divisible by 1, but they are also both divisible by 2. Therefore, the greatest common factor of 2x plus 10 is 2. Now, 2x divided by 2 is x, and 10 divided by 2 is positive 5. Therefore, the factored form of 2x plus 10 by factoring through their common monomial factor is 2 times the quantity x plus 5. Next, let's have letter B, 3x minus 15. Now, 3x minus 15 are both same as 2x plus 10. They are both divisible by 1. But these 3x minus 15 are both divisible by 3. Now, the greatest common factor of 3 and 15 is 3. Therefore, 3x divided by 3 is x, and negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. Therefore, the answer is 3 times the quantity of x minus 5. Now, let's proceed to letter C. For letter C, since we have two negative numbers here, we can also factor out that negative value. Okay, so the common factor of negative 8m and negative 12 is negative 4. Now, let's have negative 4 here. Then negative 8 divided by negative 4 is 2, 2m rather. And negative 12 divided by negative 4 is positive 3. Therefore, the answer is negative 4 times the quantity of 2m plus 3. Now let's have this one. For letter D, we have 3x cubed minus 12x squared minus 9x. Now we can see, even though this is a trinomial or it is a polynomial with three terms, they all have common factor, which is 3x. Okay, so 3x cubed divided by 3x, that will give us x squared. And negative 12x cubed divided by 3x, that will give us negative 4x. And negative 9x divided by 3x will give us negative 3 only. Therefore, if we factor out the common factor to 3x cubed minus 12x squared minus 9x, will give us 3x times the trinomial x squared minus 4x minus 3. Now we have the factoring by grouping. Let's have the first example, 4xz minus 4yz minus x plus y. Now, the first thing to do is to rearrange the terms so that the first two terms have a common factor and the second two terms have a common factor also. Now, in this case, it is already arranged so that those first two terms have a common factor of 4z. Now, the first two terms is 4xz minus 4yz, and the second two terms is negative x plus y. Okay? Now, the common factor on the first two terms is 4z. Therefore, 4xz divided by 4z, that will give us x. And negative 4yz divided by 4z, that will give us negative y. Now, on the second two terms, that is negative x plus y, the common factor is negative 1. Now, if we factored out negative 1, we will divide it to the two terms. So, negative x divided by negative 1, that will give us x, and positive y divided by negative 1, that will give us negative y. Therefore, in these two terms, 4z multiplied to x minus y minus 1 multiplied to x minus y, we have a common factor here, which is x minus y. Now we will factor out that common factor x minus y. So x minus y, and the remaining terms are 4z minus y. Therefore, the answer is x minus y times the quantity 4z minus y. Now let's have the second example, 3xy minus zw plus 3xw minus yz. Now the goal is we need to rearrange the terms so that the first two terms have a common factor. And of course, the second two terms also have a common factor. Now we can rearrange that by 3xy minus 3xw, or rather plus 3xw minus zw minus yz. Okay? So therefore, on the first two pairs are 3xy plus 3xw, and the second two pairs are negative zw minus yz. Now, the common factor on the first pair is 3x. They both have 3x. Therefore, if we factored out 3x, that will give us 3xy divided by 3x is just y, and 3xw divided by 3x is just positive w. Now, let's go to the second pair. We have negative zw minus yz. We can factor out negative z. Now, negative zw divided by negative c, that will give us positive w. And negative yz divided by negative z, that will give us positive y, yeah. Now, this y plus w and w plus y are just the same. Therefore, we can factor that out in this whole two terms. Okay? Now, let's factor out x, or rather, y plus w. Okay, so that is y plus w times the remaining values 3x minus z. 3x minus z. So that's the answer for letter B. Now let's have another example. Let's have this letter C. Now for letter C, it is already arranged so that the first two terms have a common factor and the second two terms also have a common factor. So we will group those two. And the common factor for the first pair is 2x squared. Now, 2x cubed divided by 2x squared, that will give us x. And negative 6x squared divided by 2x squared, that will give us minus or negative 3. Let's go to the second term. The greatest common factor on the second pair is positive 5. Okay? Therefore, 5x divided by 5, that will give us x, and negative 15 divided by 5, that will give us negative 3. Now, common factor on these two terms are x minus 3. Each term have both x minus 3 as its factor, therefore we can factor out x minus 3. Factoring out x minus 3 will give us x minus 3 times the remaining values, 2x squared plus 5. Therefore, that's your answer. Now, let's proceed to factoring trinomials. Kailan natin masasabi that we have a trinomial? If we have three terms. Now, if we don't have a coefficient, numerical coefficient, or our numerical coefficient on the first term is just 1, we can just find a factor of 2 that will give us a sum of the middle term. So our last term is 2. We will find a factor of 2 that will give us a sum of 3. What are the factors of 2 that will give us a sum of 3? Of course, that is positive 2 times positive 1. Okay? Therefore, the factored form of x squared plus 3x plus 2 is x plus 2 times x plus 1. That's it. Now, how about this second example? X squared minus 3x minus 10. Same process. The coefficient of the first term is just 1. Therefore, we just need to find a factor of our last term that will give us a sum of the middle term, which is negative 3. What are the factors of negative 10 that when we add will give us a sum of negative 3? We can have 5 times 2. 5 times 2 will give us 10. But since this is a negative number, one of them should be negative. Let's try 5 times negative 2. We know that 5 times negative 2 will give us negative 10. But if we add 5 and negative 2, that will give us positive 3. Therefore, we should try negative 5 times positive 2. Negative 5 times positive 2 will give us a product of negative 10. And if we add negative 5 and positive 2 will give us a sum of negative 3. Therefore, the factor of x squared minus 3x minus 10 is x minus 5 times the quantity x plus 2. Okay, let's have another example. For letter C, we have x squared minus 4x minus 12. Same process. What are the factors of negative 12 that will give us a sum of our middle term, which is negative 4? For a 12, negative 12 can have a factors of 4 and 3. That is 4 times 3 is equal to 12. But we need to have a negative number to one of them. Therefore, let's try 4 times negative 3, that is negative 12. But if we add those two, the positive 4 and negative 3, that will give us just a sum of positive 1. So let's try another factor. Let's try 6 and 2. Or try 6 and negative 2. If we try 6 and negative 2, the product of it is negative 12. But if we add 6 plus negative 2, that will give us positive 4. Therefore, we should exchange the signs, negative 6 and positive 2, for us to have a negative number. So let's try negative 6 times positive 2 will give us a product of negative 12. But if we add negative 6 and 2, that will give us a sum of negative 4. Therefore, the factor of x squared minus 4x minus 12 is x minus 6 and x plus 2. Okay. Now, let's try letter D. Now, in this case, we can see that the coefficient of the first term is more than 1, and that is equal to 3. Now, what are we going to do is to multiply that coefficient to our last term. Now, 3 times negative 10 is negative 30. So, we will find a factor of negative 30 that will give us a sum of negative x. What are the factors of negative 30 that when we add those up will give us a sum of negative x, or simply negative 1? Okay, so let's try 15 times 2. When we try 15 times 2, we know already that it is far from negative 1. The sum of 15 and 2 is far from negative 1, right? So let's try another factor, which is 5 and 6. Now, we need to have a negative number when we add those two. So the larger number should be negative. So 5 times negative 6 will be equal to negative 30. And if we add positive 5 and negative 6, that is negative 1. Therefore, we can use positive 5 and negative 6. Now, in this case, we need to expand that negative x using these two numbers. So we will write it as 3x squared minus 6x plus 5x minus 10. Okay? As we can see, negative x is just the same as negative 6x plus 5x because negative 6x plus 5x is just negative x. Therefore, we just expanded negative x using these two numbers. After expanding the middle term, we just need to proceed with factoring by grouping. Grouping the first two terms so that they both have a common factor, we can do 3x squared minus 6x and 5x minus 10. Factoring out 3x on the first pair, that will give us 3x squared divided by 3x, that is x, and negative 6x divided by 3x is negative 2. Factoring out the greatest common factor on the second pair, that is 5 or positive 5. 5x divided by 5 is just x, and negative 10 divided by 5 is just negative 2. Same process on factoring by grouping. Now we have a common factor of x minus 2. Okay? We just need to factor out that x minus 2 so that we can have the factored form of 3x squared minus x minus 10, which is x minus 2 times the quantity of the remaining values, 3x plus 5. That's it. Okay, now let's have another example, which is letter E. Let's have 3x squared minus 7x minus 6. Same process. If we have a numerical coefficient that is greater than 1 on the leading term, which is the first term, we will multiply that coefficient to our last term, which is negative 6. Now, 3 times negative 6, that will give us negative 18. We will find a factor of negative 18 that will give us a sum of negative 7, which is our middle term. Now, the two factors of negative 18 that will give us a sum of negative 7 is negative 9 and positive 2. Okay, negative 9 times positive 2 is negative 18, and negative 9 plus 2 is negative 7. Therefore, we can use these two values for us to expand the negative 7x. Now, we can write it as 3x squared minus 9x plus 2x minus 6. Now, since we have 4 terms now, we can do factoring by grouping. Factoring the first two terms and the second two terms. Okay, for the first two terms, the common factor is 3x. Therefore, 3x squared divided by 3x is just x, and negative 9x divided by 3x is just negative 3. On the second pair, we have the common factor is positive 2. Okay, so 2x divided by 2 is just x, and negative 6 divided by 2 is just negative 3. Therefore, factoring out the common factor on this binomial, 3x times the quantity of x minus 3 plus 2 times the quantity x minus 3, the common factor is x minus 3. It means they both have a factor of x minus 3. So if we factored out that x minus 3, the answer is x minus 3 times the quantity 3x plus 2. And that's your factored form of 3x squared minus 7x minus 6. Now, if you want to check that, you can use the FOIL method. Okay. Now, for letter F, let's have 2x squared plus 6x plus 4. So we will again multiply the coefficient of the first term to our last term, which is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. What are the factors of 8 that will give us a sum of 6? And that is 4 times 2. 4 times 2 is 8, and 4 plus 2 is 6. Therefore, we can write it as 2x squared plus 4x plus 2x plus 4. Now, 6x is just the same as 4x plus 2x. We just expanded 6x into 4x plus 2x. Therefore, we can now have four terms, and we will proceed by factoring by grouping. Okay? So we can group 2x squared plus 4x, and we can also group 2x plus 4. So the common factor on the first pair is 2x. Now, 2x squared divided by 2x, that will give us x, and 4x divided by 2x, that will give us positive 2. On the second pair, the common factor is 2 or positive 2. And 2x divided by 2 is just x, and 4 divided by 2 is just positive 2. Therefore, we now have a binomial which has a common factor of x plus 2. Then we will factor out that x plus 2. That will give us the quantity of x plus 2 multiplied to 2x, the remaining values, plus 2. And that's the factored form of 2x squared plus 6x plus 4. Now, let's have difference of two squares. Now, how can you tell that we will use difference of two squares? It is if a polynomial is a difference of two squares, and if it satisfies these three conditions. First, it is a binomial, and each term is a perfect square. Like this one, x squared is a perfect square, and 4 or negative 4 is also a perfect square. And there is a minus sign between the two terms. And of course, if there is a minus sign between the two terms, the operation involved is subtraction. Or basically, the two terms have different signs. So again, it is a binomial with each term has a perfect square, and they have different sign. So let's have the first example, x squared minus 4. Now we know that x squared is a perfect square, and 4 is also a perfect square. And these two have different signs, so it is a difference of two squares. Now, if we have that, we just need to construct two parentheses, and it should have different signs, positive and negative. What is the square root of x squared? That is x. So that it should be x and x. The square root of 4 is 2. Therefore, we have 2 and 2. So the factored form of x squared minus 4 is x plus 2 and x minus 2. That's it. Now let's have letter B. We know that 9x squared is a perfect square, that is 3x times 3x. And 64 is a perfect square, that is 8 times 8. Those two are perfect squares, and they have different signs. Therefore, it is a difference of two squares. Let's construct two parentheses. And what is, let's have first two different signs, positive and negative, and we will square root the first term, which is 9x squared. The square root of 9x squared is 3x. So let's have 3x and 3x here. And the square root of 64 is 8. Therefore, the factored form of 9x squared minus 64 is 3x plus 8 times the quantity 3x minus 8. Now let's have the third example, 4x squared minus 25y squared. Now we know that 4x squared is a perfect square, and it is a product of 2x and 2x. So 2x times 2x is just 4x squared. And 25y squared is also a perfect square, which is 5y. So 5y times 5y is 25y squared. Now they have different signs. First one is positive, the second one is negative. So we can apply the difference of two squares. Construct two parentheses, have positive and negative signs. Square root of 4x squared is 2x. So 2x for both the first term of the two factors. And square root of 25y squared is 5y. Therefore, the answer is the quantity 2x plus 5y multiplied to the quantity 2x minus 5y. Let's have the last example, 9x squared minus 100. Now, 9x squared is a perfect square, and it is a product of 3x and 3x. And 100 is also a perfect square. The square root of 100 is 10. Construct two parentheses, have different signs, and the square root of 9x squared is 3x. So 3x, and the square root of 100 is 10. Therefore, the factored form or the answer to 9x squared minus 100, when we factor that, is 3x plus 10 multiplied to the quantity of 3x minus 10.